I'm Andrea, and this is Hello Drea. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you enjoy our discussion. Feel free to leave some comments, like, subscribe, and share. With that being said, let's get into it. Hi, ladies and gents, because I actually have more male viewers, or at least I used to. I had more male viewers than female viewers. Now I barely have any viewers at all, but that's cool. I'm still showing up. I didn't have any viewers to begin with, so it's nothing new. Today, I want to talk about knowing your place. And I want to talk about knowing your place because a lot of us seem to be confused on a very basic principle, which is that you reap what you sow. No, I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not here to tell you about Jesus. I'm just using that to paint the bigger picture for you, right? As somebody that used to be more outside and is definitely a lot more laid back, I guess you could say, I see the obvious differences in my life, and I have for quite some time now, because I've been on this path maybe for the past, do not get up here. I've been on this path for about the past 3 years almost, of get down, of toning it down and just overall carrying myself different. Now, in this video, I am going to make distinctions between 304s and good girls, and I want you to understand that I am not making that distinction to bash anyone, and I am definitely not saying one is automatically better than the other. I'm making this distinction so that we can all follow along in the simplest terms possible. That's literally it. So if I were to make a Venn diagram, obviously I understand there's going to be overlap in the middle, right, between these two labels. So like I said, it's not to put anyone down, and it isn't to prop anybody up unfairly. It is quite literally just so we are on the same page with this conversation, right? If you are choosing to be a quote-unquote good girl, I need you to understand that you are not going to reap the same benefits as somebody that has chosen to be a 304. It might not be as lucrative for you, unless of course you have a career and you go to school, go to work, whatever. It might not be as lucrative. You may not get as much attention online and offline as women that are visibly easier to label as 304s, right? So obviously you are also not going to have the same social validation, right? There aren't as many people looking up to you possibly and telling you how cool you are, or how hot you are, or how whatever you are when you're choosing to be a good girl. And that's why I want to have this discussion, because I think a lot of good girls get confused on why they feel left behind or why they feel ignored. And I also think a lot of good girls fall into these mental traps of thinking that they have to be people pleasers, or they have to make themselves useful in other ways in order for people to really see them for who they are. And oftentimes they allow themselves to be used so that they can feel as if they belong. And that isn't fair to you. As a good girl, you need to understand who and what you're doing it for. So fundamentally, no matter how we choose to present ourselves or who we choose to be as women, if we are not doing these things consciously, if we are not understanding our self-concept and what our actual goals are, all we're doing is basically showing our symptoms of patriarchal conditioning. Hold on. Hi, baby. I'm making a video. Can I call you back? So before I was outside, right, I was very much a typical good girl. kind of a nerd, kind of like, a loser. I had very strict parents, and that doesn't make you a loser or anything, but I'm just speaking for my example. I was just not able to do a lot of things. And people would always like make comments like, "Oh, you're going to be really out there or whatever when you grow up because of that." And I don't think me coming outside was necessarily because of my upbringing. I don't think that it was just me being like, "Oh my gosh, I want to try everything. I want to do everything." It really came down to not feeling validated. And I know that that was the reason, because I was actively seeking, validation. I was actively seeking validation, even though I wasn't telling myself that's what I was doing, even though I wasn't exactly conscious that that was what I was doing. When I look back at everything, that's exactly what it is. I wanted to feel worthy. I wanted to get attention. I wanted to get love. I wanted to have all of the things that anybody else desires. You know what I mean? And I will say this. Before coming outside, when I was still very much in my nerdy, nice, good girl bag, I was very much ignored. I was very much overlooked. I was very much treated like I was invisible. And I thought, maybe I'm just not pretty. Maybe I'm just not funny. Maybe I'm just not, all of these different things. It felt like, even though I had a great personality and I always thought that I was pretty, it felt like other people were not able to see this until I had a very obvious glow up and kind of changed how I presented myself, right? So the bottom line is this. If you relate to my situation and you feel like you're invisible or you're not important, I think it's time that you have an honest discussion about who you are and what you're doing it for. This is especially true if you're beginning to feel resentments toward the girls that do the so-called wrong things, and they end up reaping the benefits of those wrong things, meaning the money, the attention, the popularity, whatever it is, right? So understand that if you're choosing to eat fruit, the consequences of eating fruit will come to you. So fruit provides you with fiber. You might be in the bathroom more. Your flatulence might smell a little different when you're eating fruit, being healthier, right? You're receiving antioxidants and vitamin C from a lot of fruits, so you might have brighter skin. Those are the consequences of eating fruit, right? So let's say you only eat junk. There are also consequences with that. You're going to get dopamine rushes. You are going to get down. You're going to get dopamine rushes. You're going to maybe gain weight. Who knows? It might not be bad weight. You might gain weight in the places that you want to gain weight. There are just different repercussions of all of our actions, obviously. But when you are eating that fruit, are you really upset about the next person who's eating junk food and they are getting thick off of eating junk food? Or are you like, oh, I'm glad that I'm taking care of myself. I'm glad I'm doing what aligns with me. See, if you make the mistake of only being a good girl because you want people to validate you, you've already lost. My cat is rolling a battery round right now. No respect for my craft at all. If you are eating that fruit and you have all these resentments and all these issues, you have to understand, you could always choose to eat the junk food as well. But instead of gaining weight in the places you want to gain weight, you might break out. You might develop type 2 diabetes. You know, it's always going to be potential upsides, potential downsides, right? If you're choosing to be a good girl, no, you aren't going to get as much attention. And let's be honest, as somebody that has been on both sides, right? A lot of the validation that you get is lip service. And what I mean by that is, it's a lot of people telling you that you're good or better than the next girl because of what you don't do. But I feel like that also mentally can imprison you in some ways, because when somebody only compliments you in comparison to other people, it makes it hard to see yourself as an individual, which is what you are, right? It's what we all are, regardless of what side we're on. 304, good girl, somewhere in between, whatever. We're still individuals at the end of the day. And so individually, you have to do the work to ask yourself what you're in it for. If you are only being good so that you can sleep at night, rest assured that you can always shame the next woman or feel superior to the next woman, you cannot be upset when the next woman feels superior to you. So the same way that you look at a 304 and you're like, oh, look at you wearing those shorts and doing this and that. Look at you sleeping with men for money. Look at you doing whatever, right? You can't be mad when a 304 looks at you and says, look at you sleeping with men for free, being broke, being treated badly. Look at you only taking a trip every 5 years. You know what I mean? Just consequences to everything. So as a good girl, I ask that you, as a good girl, good woman, whatever, I ask that you walk in that energy, knowing what you're doing it for, and making sure that the trade-offs are worth it to you. Because at the end of the day, your life is yours, and you have to live with the decisions that you make. So if you want me to speak more on this topic, just comment below. I would be happy to. I would be happy also to provide some examples of people that have been on both sides and what my opinions are on how they're navigating the extremes. Let's have a discussion below. Please share the video with somebody that you care about. Please like the video and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I'm Andrea and this is Hello Drea, and thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Till next time.